All right. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Angela Stanton King.
Yes.
Long time.
I know, right?
You know I've been trying to interview you for years.
Yeah.
And you shut my ass down.
I did.
I think I still got the email.
The beginning was a little rough. I didn't like how you was coming at me. I was under a lot of pressure already. I was like, nah, this ain't gonna be good. Because we probably on the same energy.
Listen, look, seeing you in person, I probably would have just got quiet.
See what I'm saying?
I'm little compared to you. I would have just been like, you know, I did all that for entertainment. You know what I'm saying? You know how it is, girl.
It's
you know
all
what I'm saying?
good. But we here.
I know.
And that's what
it's
sisterhood is, right?
4 years later.
Yep.
You have been rocking the internet so much so, your Instagram is down.
Yep. Twitter.
Twitter is down.
Facebook.
It seemed like it went down right around the time that Trump's went down.
Yep. Now, censorship.
Now we're here, just in case, my audience isn't familiar, because we don't cover a lot of the political arena, but that's going to change. And you are our first guest in that area. And so, and I thought it was only right. I'm excited that you reached out to me because, one, I do agree with a lot of your views.
Okay.
We do have some differences in how they're delivered, of course, but we can discuss that later.
Right.
And two, I mean, you're a Black woman. You're out here doing your thing. You may not say a lot of things that people necessarily like to hear, but at the end of the day, you are a Black woman that is representing the betterment of our people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just like, when we were younger and we had one of those aunties and everybody say she was mean. She wasn't mean. She just meant what she said.
I had one.
And so
Carolyn McNeil.
And mine was K to B, right?
Yes.
And then my grandmother Suge. And so these are the type of women that raised me. I mean, we just didn't sugarcoat, right?
Yeah.
And
you from the South?
Just tell the truth. Well, my grandmother, she lived in Summerhill here in Atlanta all of her life. So my mother and all of her sisters and brothers.
Okay.
So of course I was back and forth here during the summers when I was a little girl. But by the age of 15, I moved here permanently.
Okay, because I was gonna say you do give me kind of that very conservative Southern draw at the same time. Like there, you still have morals.
Yeah.
A lot of things that a lot of young women are being raised not to have these days. But at the same time, you have that fire, that Northern fire that you see.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I tell people I didn't really find myself until I moved to Maryland.
Right.
Because I was always told a woman is supposed to be seen and not heard. Mm-hmm. But when I moved to Maryland, it was like, wow, I could actually cuss my boss out at work and not get fired. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You know, and so that's when it was kind of like the resurrection of like Tasha K. So, but Angela Stanton, when you hit the scene, I don't think you were Angela Stanton King at the time.
Right.
Okay, you were just released from prison, of course.
Right.
The reason I was so kind of taken aback by, I guess, how you came out of prison is because, I mean, a lot of people clout chase out here.
Right.
But after kind of dwelling in and really looking at your case, I really understood what you were trying to point out.
Right.
You're a mother, your life was taken, not in, in that way, but basically you had years taken away from you, years that you could have been spending with your children, and yet there's someone out here on television, Phaedra Parks, who is acting as if nothing happened and has offered you no support whatsoever, and you guys had a joint business together.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Yes, we did. And what a lot of people don't know is that same time that I served, that same sentence when I was pregnant and in prison and gave birth to my daughter chained to a bed, I had no idea that 17 years later, I was going to be telling that same story in front of President Trump and that he was going to make it illegal for them to chain women to beds during childbirth because of my own personal story. So in that, I'll say that beautiful things can come from very ugly situations if we never give up and if we keep fighting.
I mean, and I can see how a lot of people can kind of take what you say and not take it in, but they block because I feel the way it's delivered, people aren't used to that. You're Black, you're extremely tall, you come off as your power. You carry a power and aura about you. Right. But before we get into, because I know there's a lot of controversy around your name.
Oh gosh.
Controversy sells. I love that.
Hey, I'm controversy. Miss Controversy then.
But of course I can agree. Have you spoken to Phaedra since you
Since, I haven't.
You really?
I haven't even seen her, haven't even bumped heads.
In Atlanta?
I think it's the pure grace and mercy of the good Lord in heaven.
What would you do if you were to see, if Phaedra was here today? What would you do? What would you say?
I mean, there's two different Angelas. So you have the Angela who has evolved now, who is now Angela Stanton King. And it's like, look how God has blessed me despite, right? What happened? Then you got the other Angela that's still there, and shit, I got a clear record now. I might be willing to go back and take a charter. I don't know.
But you already served time behind her.
I mean, and
I've ran
it's the disrespect that came along with it. It's the fact that while I was serving time in the state, Apollo and Everett were in the feds, and they were preparing a case against me while I was in the state, and I didn't know. I didn't know I had federal charges until I walked outside of the state prison. Phaedra knew all of this all this time. The whole while, they're framing me to be the fall guy for the entire operation. I don't know until I get the discovery. So all of this time, you're framing me when you are the mastermind. And my mother died when I was in prison. She had a massive heart attack, died when my daughter was 6 months old. Phaedra standing at the funeral holding my baby, crying with my family like she really cared, and the whole while you're framing me. So it's a lot of disrespect, and it's a lot of dirt that came into play after that. And I mean, even after getting out of prison and losing my mother and my grandmother and having to rebuild my life, like I literally had nothing. And this is also a part of the reason why I started looking more at the conservative side, because when I got released from prison, I couldn't get welfare. I couldn't get Section 8. I couldn't get, a job because I was a convicted felon. So I really, really had to struggle. And I had to figure out how to climb my way up out of the dirt. And when I learned how to become financially free, I started a publishing company because I had a story to tell. And so when I wrote my story and she sued me for $30 million, knowing I didn't even have 30 cents, my story was literally all I had.
What happened with that lawsuit?
Oh, it was dismissed with prejudice. I won 4 years later.
Okay, that's good, because I mean, not only to take years, now I'm not gonna say of course you didn't know right from wrong, of course.
Of course I did.
But at the same time, if she, as an attorney, someone that you worked very close with this organization, knew that and then tried to sue you on top of that for defamation of character or something like that.
$30 million,
and she
lady,
was
come
roped
on.
into the federal investigation. Where was she going to
Come on, and I had been loyal the whole time, so it was never nothing about, no money coming up short or nobody trying to sidebar nobody. It was a real business, and we had a real business understanding. If anything happened to me, she was the lawyer that was going to represent me. But when it came to all of us getting locked up at the same time, she had to make a choice in who she was going to represent. And of course, that was Apollo. So when it came to me, I was a conflict of interest. But to go beyond that and to have them say and to put on paperwork that I was the mastermind when you were the mastermind, me and Apollo were kids. We didn't have that type of education. We didn't know how to do that. So it's the dirt that came behind it.
It's just,
And there's no honor amongst thieves. So, you talking to a girl that had just got out of prison, had served all her time, because I didn't have to serve any time. I could have been a snitch. I didn't have to give birth to my daughter in prison. But like you said, of course, I knew what I did was wrong. But at the same time, if we're in this together and we've all made agreements and other people go down, so you still stand, and rightfully so, you should make sure those people are straight. I mean, we got codes in the street too.
Have you spoken to Apollo, Nita, since
he's
been released?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. There's really no need to.
No one has reached out to you to say,
why would they at this point? I mean, Apollo did try to reach out earlier on, and I think this is documented where he did an interview and he was trying to tell Phaedra that they need to contact me and try to work something out on the side. But at that point, it was nothing to work out. I mean...
Do you feel like she feels, maybe Phaedra, that they could possibly reopen the case and charge her as well if she...
I think the statute of limitations has run out, but I don't know what all they had going on, because right after I released my book, Apollo got locked up with St. Julian, who had the same exact story as mine. So I don't know if you remember that, but that was why her attorneys dropped her in the lawsuit. So, I mean, everything happens for a reason. But I feel like now today that I look back, I had to go through all that, because if I didn't go through that and have that experience, then I wouldn't have worked with Trump's administration on criminal justice reform to get the First Step Act passed.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because you are like leader of the Black women right-wing mafia going on now.
No, that is not true.
Nah,
that is not true.
Like,
don't give me that label, B. Don't give me that label. I have an issue. I you know, I'm very outspoken.
That's very.
There's some black right-wing, you know, political figures that I feel don't like Black people. Yes. So we're not all in the same boat.
But you, one thing I will say about you is you do advocate for Black people.
Oh, yes.
Okay? Although you are, like I said, leader of the right-wing mafia, because when it comes to Black people representing the right-wing party, a lot of them don't come as hard as you. They're more so pushovers. I haven't seen one that I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying. But you come straight out the gate, you know, with your views about, you know, Planned Parenthood and anti-abortion, making sure that children aren't being brainwashed early.
And sexualized.
Media, all of these things that, of course, you know, happened to me. When I was younger, of course, I've had an abortion. I was molested when I was,
Me too.
know, so, I mean, just a lot of things, you know, helping Black people to get out of poverty. You know what I'm saying? That's a passion of mine, you know, because a lot of us do live by the handout. You know, and people don't understand, like, you're going to live very limited, you know, with your handout. And that's easy. That's the reason why it's easy for someone like Planned Parenthood to come into neighborhoods and convince you, because guess what? You have your handout. You can't afford to take care of kids if the government is taking care of you. You understand what I'm saying? And so I agree with a lot of your views. And I feel that a lot of people would agree with a lot of your views if, I don't know, I feel that there is a, because I go through it. I'm Black, seen as aggressive, I'm seen as loud, and it's not taken well.
So you have to understand that not only am I Black, not only am I aggressive, not only am I 6'2" when I put on heels,
I would just be quiet.
But I'm also a Black conservative, which is something they believe is totally unheard of today. Like there's some type of thing out there that everybody thinks because we're Black, we're supposed to be Democrats. So a lot of times when you go online and you're reading things about me, right? This is the opinion of someone who may not align with my values. So they have created a picture like I hate LGBTQ, right? Like everybody in the world loves my child more than me, right? Everybody else loves them more than me, right? They've created a picture that, you know, I'm against women's rights, right? When the whole time I'm fighting for the women of tomorrow. Like, what type of ancestors are we if we're marching to execute the next generation and not marching for the next generation to live? Now, just like you say, have I had an abortion? Absolutely. Have I bought the lie? Absolutely. But when you know better, you do better. And those of us that are older now and becoming the elders, we have a responsibility to lead. And so they say all the time, right? They say that the younger are quicker, but the elder know the way. And so if we have no one that's standing up, right? Because back in the day when I was younger and the situation came up about a baby, it was always preached to me that a baby was a blessing, right? Like we didn't wear abortion as a badge of honor, and we damn sure wasn't nowhere fighting for it, holding up no signs or marching for it. And I need the Black community to understand that we can't get too far gone, right, with these agendas that actually execute Black life. Because right now we're still only 13% of the population. And when we're crying about being a minority, well, why are we the minority? We're the minority because, well, for one, we're not valuing life, right? We're treating abortion as it is birth control, okay? Mass incarceration is an issue because if the majority of our men are incarcerated, then they aren't out here reproducing. The transgenderism movement, as far as with our children, is also an issue. And it's an issue because if we have a little boy that's in school that's being taught that he's a girl, then by the time he becomes an adult, if he really believes he's a girl, then chances are he's going to castrate. He's going to dismember himself. All of these things lead to sterilization. They all lead to depopulation. And someone has to be bold enough to say, wait a minute, right? Do what you do. We're not hating, but this is the message that we're pushing over here. And if we want to change something, because the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, then what we have to do is be the change that we want to see. So I can't go along to get along, like our boy Kwame Brown say, you know, that's his thing. I got to be the preacher that's preaching the message. Like, I remember the preachers when I was coming up. Half the time I didn't even listen to them.
Right.
One day it might go in one ear and right out the other. But sometimes it sticks. And where are the people that just preach the right message, even if we don't agree, even if it hurts, even if it stings? That don't mean that we don't need to hear it. What we're watching and seeing take place right now with Black life, right? When they say Black lives matter and we're marching for dead Black men that have been killed, and I'm not against that, right? Everybody deserves justice that's been done wrong. But Black life begins in the womb, right? Like, let's save some of these babies. Let's stop listening to these white liberals telling us that our children don't deserve to live. Like, you're gonna go vote for the next generation of Black life to be executed. I don't want you to be my ancestor. That's not what we're supposed to be fighting for.
What prompted such a big change?
Oh, do you really want to know the story?
I do want to know the story because
it goes back to your girl Phaedra. You are not gonna believe this. I put it in the book. I put it in the book. Listen,
I was Phaedra as your lawyer. I went to jail every time.
This is every time. Every time. So
all right, Phaedra Point.
I was pregnant. And this is, and I'm sure you interviewed my son, and he talked about his father who passed away.
Yes.
So we were all in this together.
Yes.
So I had gotten pregnant and we were working, right? And so Phaedra was trying to convince me that I didn't need to have another baby, right? And so we go to the grocery store and she's on the phone with her mama, right? I put this in the book. They made me take it out because I couldn't prove it, but that's who I know she was